3 days had passed since the humans arrived. The battle on the ground continued, but reinforcements from the fleet had turned the tide. The Krath were being pushed back slowly but surely. However, Intelligence Officer Suji had discovered something that changed everything. She stood before Captain Minho in his ready room, her expression grave. "Captain, I've analyzed all the Krath communication patterns. They're not random. Every signal traces back to one source, a massive bioship in the outer system. I believe it's the Hive Queen." Minho leaned forward. "The one controlling all of them?" "Yes, sir." "Without her, the Krath lose their coordination. They become just animals. But there's a problem. The Queen's bioship is enormous, heavily defended, and surrounded by what's left of their fleet. The Coalition reinforcements are still 4 weeks away. We're on our own. Then we go after her ourselves," Minho said simply. Yuna, who was also in the room, looked shocked. "Captain, we barely have 7 combat-capable ships left. The others are damaged or protecting the planet. Going after the Queen is suicide. Maybe for other species," Minho replied. "But we're not other species. Suji, I want you to work with Science Officer Rena. Find me a weakness we can exploit." Later that day, Science Officer Rena presented her findings to the senior staff. She was younger than most of them, but brilliant in her field. "I've been studying Krath biology from the corpses on the planet. The hive-mind connection is biological, maintained through specialized pheromones and bioelectric signals. I can create a pathogen that disrupts this connection." "A weapon?" Minho asked. "A very specific one. It won't kill them, but it will break their link to the Queen. They'll become confused, aggressive toward each other, unable to coordinate. But there's a catch. The pathogen has to be delivered directly into the Queen's body. It won't work if we just spray it near her ship. Someone has to get inside and inject it." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. Dr. Nari spoke up. "A boarding action. You want us to board the Hive Queen's ship and deliver the pathogen from inside?" "It's the only way," Rena confirmed. Lieutenant Yuna stood from her chair. "I'll lead the boarding team. Give me 12 Marines and I'll get that pathogen to the Queen." Minho looked at his second-in-command. They had served together for 6 years. She was more than his officer, she was his friend. "Yuna, the survival rate for this mission is basically 0. "Then it's a good thing I'm human," Yuna replied with a slight smile. 0% doesn't scare us, remember? Besides, someone has to do it, and I'm the best tactical officer we have." Minho wanted to argue, but he knew she was right. "Okay, pick your team. You'll have the best equipment we can give you. Rena will have the pathogen ready in 12 hours. The next morning, the Indomitable and 6 other human ships broke orbit and headed for the outer system. They left behind enough forces to protect the planet, but this mission required their best. The Krath Queen had to die. The journey to the outer system took 8 hours. When they arrived, they found the Hive Queen's bioship waiting for them. It was massive, easily 10 times the size of the Indomitable. Around it floated 40 Krath escort vessels. "Well," Minho said, looking at the tactical display, "at least it's not 100 ships." "Small miracles," Yuna replied. She was already wearing her powered armor, modified for the boarding mission. Behind her stood 12 Marines, all volunteers, all ready to die if necessary. Engineer Hune spoke from his station. "Captain, I can get us close enough to ram their outer membrane. It'll create a hole big enough for the boarding team to enter, but the Indomitable will take heavy damage." "Do it," Minho ordered. "All ships attack formation. We're going right down their throat." The human fleet charged forward. The Krath escort ships moved to intercept, and space erupted with weapons fire. Railgun slugs tore through bioships. Plasma blasts scorched human shields. Missiles exploded in brilliant flashes. It was chaos. The Indomitable pushed through the enemy formation, taking hit after hit. Shields flickered and failed. Armor plates cracked, but the ship kept going, aimed directly at the Hive Queen's massive bulk. "Brace for impact," Minho called out. The Indomitable crashed into the Queen's bioship, its reinforced bow tearing through the outer membrane. The ship shuddered violently, alarm screaming. But it held together. A breach had been made. "Boarding team, go," Minho ordered. Yuna and her Marines jumped through the breach into the alien vessel. What they found inside was nightmarish. The interior was organic, pulsing walls that oozed fluids. The air was thick and humid, filled with strange smells. And everywhere, Krath warriors were rushing toward them. "Move fast," Yuna commanded. "We need to reach the Queen's chamber." The Marines fought their way deeper into the bioship. The corridors were narrow, forcing them into close combat. Krath warriors attacked from every direction. The Marines used their flamethrowers, filling the organic tunnels with fire. Krath screamed and burned. Humans had learned long ago that fire was a universal weapon. One Marine went down, overwhelmed by 3 warriors at once. Then another. But the rest pushed forward. They had a mission. Specialist Suhyuk used explosive charges to blast through particularly thick sections of the ship. The explosions caused the entire vessel to shudder. "Keep moving." "We're almost there." After what felt like hours but was only 30 minutes, they reached a massive chamber. At its center was the Hive Queen herself. She was enormous, easily 20 meters long, her body bloated and covered in pulsing sacs. Around her were hundreds of Krath warriors, her personal guard. "There," Yuna pointed. "Rena, I hope this pathogen works." She pulled out the injection device, a specialized weapon designed to pierce the Queen's thick hide. But between her and the Queen were those hundreds of warriors. "Cover me!" Yuna shouted and ran forward. The Marines opened fire with everything they had. Krath warriors fell by the dozens, but more kept coming. 1 Marine fell, then 2 more. Yuna kept running, dodging and weaving through the chaos. A Krath warrior grabbed her from the side. She twisted, broke its grip with her armor's strength, and kept going. Another one slashed at her back, tearing through her armor. Pain exploded through her body, but she didn't stop. She reached the Queen. The massive creature thrashed, trying to crush her. Yuna dodged, found a soft spot on the Queen's underbelly, and stabbed the injection device deep into the flesh. She pressed the trigger and felt the pathogen flood into the Queen's body. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the Queen began to scream, a sound that shook the entire chamber. Around the room, the Krath warriors suddenly stopped fighting. They looked confused, lost. The hive-mind connection was breaking apart. "Pathogen deployed," Yuna transmitted. "Get out, everyone out!" The surviving Marines ran for the exit, carrying their wounded. Behind them, the Krath warriors were turning on each other, the hive mind collapsing into chaos. They reached the breach just as the Indomitable pulled away. The boarding team made it back to the ship with seconds to spare. On the bridge, Minho watched the sensor readings. The Hive Queen's bioship was tearing itself apart from the inside. The Krath fleet was breaking formation, ships attacking each other randomly. The pathogen was working. Yuna stumbled onto the bridge, her armor damaged and covered in alien blood. "Mission accomplished, Captain." Minho smiled with relief. "Well done, Lieutenant. Now let's finish this." The human fleet opened fire on the confused Krath vessels. Without coordination, without the Queen's guidance, the Krath were helpless. One by one, their ships fell. As the last Krath vessel died, Minho opened a channel to the entire fleet. "All ships, cease fire. The battle is over. We won." Across the fleet, crews erupted in cheers. They had done the impossible. The Deathworlders had defeated the Krath. The victory in space was only the beginning. While the human fleet controlled the orbital space around the Valerian homeworld, millions of Krath warriors had already landed on the surface. They were spreading across the planet like a disease, consuming everything in their path. Sergeant Daehyun stood in the drop bay of the Indomitable, surrounded by his Marines. 40 soldiers in powered armor, each carrying enough weapons to arm a small army. They were the first wave of the ground assault. "Listen up," Daehyun called out over the communications channel. "The Valerians are peaceful people. They don't have armies, they don't have soldiers. What they do have is us. We're going down to the capital city where the Krath have surrounded the main refugee center. 30,000 Valerian civilians are trapped there with no way out." He pulled up a holographic map of the city. "The Krath have numbers on us, about 75 to 1. That means each of us needs to kill at least 75 of these things before we can take a break." One of the Marines laughed. "Only 75? I was hoping for a challenge, Sergeant." "You'll get one," Daehyun promised. "These things are 3 meters tall, they regenerate wounds, and their blood is acid. But remember, we're from Earth. We're the apex predators of a death world. These bugs are about to learn what that means." "Mount up!" The Marines loaded into drop pods, single-person capsules designed to carry soldiers from orbit to ground. It was a terrifying method of deployment that only humans used. The G-forces involved would kill most species, but humans could handle it. Daehyun sealed his pod and felt the familiar rush of adrenaline. He'd done this dozens of times in training. Now he would do it for real. "All pods launch on my mark," came the order from the ship. 3, 2, 1, launch! The drop pods shot from the Indomitable like bullets from a gun. They screamed through the atmosphere, wrapped in fire from the friction. Inside, Dae-hyun felt the crushing weight of 10 Gs pressing down on him. His vision narrowed. His breath came in short gasps. But he stayed conscious, stayed alert. This was what human evolution had prepared him for. The pod hit the ground with tremendous force, its crash-resistant exterior absorbing the impact. The door blew open and Dae-hyun stepped out into a war zone. The Valerian capital was burning. Buildings had been torn apart, streets were cratered, and bodies lay everywhere. The Krath warriors were easy to spot. They were massive insectoid creatures, larger than humans even in powered armor, with 6 limbs and mandibles that dripped acid. Their exoskeletons were dark and shiny, and they moved with frightening speed. "All Marines, rally point Alpha," Dae-hyun ordered. "Defensive formation around the refugee center. Kill anything that's not Valerian." The Marines moved through the city streets, their armor's servos amplifying their strength. They reached the refugee center quickly. It was a large building now surrounded by thousands of Krath warriors trying to break inside. "Weapons free," Dae-hyun commanded. "Light them up." The Marines opened fire. Their rifles used a mix of ammunition types specifically chosen for this mission: explosive rounds, armor-piercing rounds, and incendiary rounds. The Krath had never faced weapons like these. The first wave of Krath died before they even knew they were under attack. Explosive rounds blew them apart. Armor-piercing rounds punched through their exoskeletons like paper. Incendiary rounds set them on fire, and it turned out that Krath burned very well, but there were so many of them. For every Krath that fell, 3 more took its place. They swarmed toward the Marines, their mandibles clicking, their claws reaching. "Close combat," someone shouted. The Krath crashed into the Marine line like a wave. What happened next would have been impossible for any other species. The Marines met them head-on, using their powered armor's strength to fight hand-to-hand. Dae-hyun grabbed a Krath warrior by its mandibles and tore them off. The creature screamed and sprayed acid blood, but his armor's coating protected him. He slammed his armored fist into the Krath's head and crushed it. Another warrior tried to attack from behind. He spun, drew his combat knife, and stabbed it through what passed for its brain. Around him, his Marines were doing the same. Combat medic Minji fought like a demon, her medical training giving her perfect knowledge of where to strike for maximum damage. She disabled 3 Krath in as many seconds. Specialist Suhyuk threw a grenade into a cluster of Krath. The explosion was tremendous, scattering body parts across the street. "That's what Earth explosives do to you," he shouted cheerfully. The battle continued for hours. The Krath kept coming, wave after wave, never stopping, never retreating. But the Marines held the line. They were stronger than the Krath, faster in their armor, and far more determined. Every Marine knew that behind them were 30,000 innocent people counting on them. Inside the refugee center, the Valerians watched through windows and security cameras. They had never seen anything like this. The humans fought with a savagery that seemed impossible for an intelligent species. They took wounds that would have killed a Valerian and kept fighting. They showed no fear, no hesitation, only brutal efficiency. One Valerian child asked its parent, "Why do the humans fight so hard for us? They don't even know us." The parent had no answer, but it was learning that humans were something special, something the galaxy had never seen before. As night fell, the Krath assault weakened. The human Marines had created a wall of dead Krath bodies around the refugee center. The acid blood from so many dead warriors had melted the street itself, creating a moat of sorts. The surviving Krath pulled back, regrouping for another attack. Dae-hyun did a head count. 40 Marines had dropped. 38 were still standing. 2 had fallen, overwhelmed by sheer numbers. He felt the loss deeply, but there was no time to mourn yet. "Perimeter secure," he reported to the Indomitable. "We need reinforcements and supplies. Also, we have wounded Valerians who need medical attention." "Reinforcements dropping in 10 minutes," came the response. "Medical supplies coming with them." Minji was already working on the wounded. She moved among the Valerians with gentle efficiency, her medical scanner analyzing each patient. The Valerians were amazed that she could work in such conditions. There was Krath blood everywhere, toxic chemicals in the air, and the constant threat of another attack. But Minji didn't seem bothered. "Your immune system must be incredible," a Valerian doctor said, trying to help. "It is," Minji replied while bandaging a wounded civilian. "Earth has diseases that make your worst plagues look gentle. Our bodies learn to fight everything. That's why I can work here without protective equipment." She finished with one patient and moved to the next. Your people are going to be okay. We won't let anything happen to you. The Valerian doctor looked at this human, covered in dirt and alien blood, exhausted from hours of combat, and still showing such care for strangers. Why do you care so much about us? Minji looked up, surprised by the question. Because you needed help. Isn't that enough? Before the doctor could respond, alarm sounded. The Krath were attacking again, this time with even more warriors. Thousands of them rushed through the darkness toward the refugee center. Daehyun rallied his marines. Here they come again. Remember, behind us are people who can't fight. We're all they have. So we hold this line until there's not a single Krath left standing. The marines took their positions. They were exhausted, low on ammunition, and outnumbered beyond reason. But they were human. They were from Earth, and they didn't know how to give up. For the Valerians, Daehyun shouted. For humanity, the marines roared back. The Krath crashed into them like a living tsunami. The battle for the refugee center entered its 16th hour. And still the humans held. The Krath bioships filled the view screen like a nightmare come to life. They were not machines, but living creatures grown rather than built. Each vessel pulsed with organic movement, their surfaces covered in thick armor that looked like dark purple flesh. Some were small fighter-sized creatures, others were massive things bigger than human destroyers. Intelligence Officer Suji worked quickly at her station, analyzing the enemy formations. Her fingers moved across the console as she fed data to the rest of the fleet. Captain, I count 240 Krath vessels in this sector. They're surrounding the planet in a loose sphere formation. Numbers don't scare me, Minho said calmly. They've never fought humans before. They're about to get an education. Weapons Officer Jiwon, status report. Jiwon checked her displays. The weapons officer was young, but had proven herself in every simulation. Now she would prove herself in real combat. All railguns charged and ready, Captain. Missile tubes loaded. Point defense systems online. We're ready to make these things regret existing. Good. Yuna, break us into attack formation Delta. I want the Indomitable and the Resolute as the spearhead. Typhoon and her fighters will provide cover. Everyone else in support positions. The human ships split apart, moving into their assigned places with practiced precision. The Krath noticed the movement. Their bioships began to shift, turning to face the newcomers. Suddenly, 40 Krath vessels broke away from the main group and accelerated toward the human fleet. They moved fast, much faster than normal ships. Their organic engines pushed them forward like swimming predators rushing toward prey. Here they come, Yuna announced. Entering weapons range in 20 seconds. Let them get close, Minho ordered. I want them to think we're an easy target. The Krath ships opened fire first. Streams of bioplasma shot from their weapons, bright green energy that burned through space. The shots hit the Indomitable's shields and splashed across them like water. The human shields held easily. Their weapons are about 40% weaker than Coalition standard, Jiwon reported. Our shields can take dozens of hits without failing. Then let's show them what real weapons look like, Minho said. All ships open fire. Target the closest vessels. Railguns maximum power. The human warships unleashed their fury. The railguns fired with thunderous force, launching solid metal slugs at incredible speeds. Each projectile was a rod of depleted uranium, 30 centimeters long, moving at thousands of kilometers per second. When they hit, the results were devastating. The first Krath bioship took a railgun slug directly through its center mass. The projectile punched completely through the organic armor, through whatever organs existed inside and out the other side. The bioship shuddered once and then exploded as its internal systems failed catastrophically. Direct hit, Jiwon shouted. Target destroyed! More railgun rounds followed. The Krath had never encountered purely kinetic weapons before. Their adaptive armor, which could adjust to energy weapons within seconds, was useless against physical impacts. Each slug that connected killed a bioship. The Krath swarm tried to adapt. Some ships released clouds of smaller organisms to act as shields. The railgun rounds tore through them without slowing down. Other ships tried to dodge, but human targeting computers predicted their movements perfectly. From the carrier Typhoon, pilot Hana led her fighter squadron into the battle. 60 human fighters screamed through space, their engines burning bright. Each fighter was small and fast, built for speed and maneuverability. The Krath released their own fighters, smaller bioships the size of cars. They had tentacles for weapons and could move in any direction. They swarmed toward the human fighters like angry insects. Hana smiled inside her helmet. This was what she lived for. All wings, engage at will. Show them how we fly. The human fighters dove into the Krath swarm. What followed was a display of skill that no other species could match. Human pilots could handle G-forces that would kill most aliens. They pulled turns that should have been impossible, twisted their fighters through maneuvers that broke every standard rule of space combat. Hana's fighter spun completely around while moving forward, her guns tracking a Krath biofighter. She fired a burst of kinetic rounds and the target disintegrated. Without pausing, she rolled left, avoided 3 enemy plasma shots, and killed 2 more targets in quick succession. "I've got 6 kills already," her wingman called out cheerfully. "This is almost too easy." "Stay focused," Hana ordered. "Don't get cocky. There are a lot more of them than us," she was right. For every Krath they killed, more appeared. But the humans were holding their own. Their reflexes, their G-tolerance, their aggressive tactics all combined to make them superior pilots. The Krath fighters were tough and numerous, but they fought in predictable patterns. Humans didn't do predictable. Back on the Indomitable, the battle continued. More Krath bioships joined the fight, swarming from all directions. The human fleet was outnumbered 20-1 now, but they were winning. "Target the larger vessels," Minho commanded. "Concentrate fire. Burn through them one at a time." The Resolute and the Indomitable focused their railguns on a massive Krath bioship, something the size of a coalition cruiser. Round after round slammed into it. The creature's armor held for the first few impacts, but then began to crack. Purple blood or fluid leaked from the wounds. The bioship tried to regenerate, but the damage was coming too fast. Finally, with one last massive strike, the creature died. Across the fleet, the human ships worked together with deadly efficiency. They covered each other's weak spots, shared targeting data, and fought as a single unit. This was something the Krath had never experienced. Most species fought as individuals, each ship trying to survive. Humans fought as a pack, willing to take damage to protect their teammates. Officer Suji analyzed the battle data flowing in. "Captain, the Krath are trying to adapt. They're changing their tactics, trying to surround us." "Let them try," Minho said. "They're learning that surrounding us just means they're in range of more of our guns. All ships prepare for close-range engagement. Switch to missiles." The human warships launched swarms of missiles. These weren't the guided missiles most species used. These were simple, fast, and carried powerful explosives. The Krath tried to shoot them down, but there were too many moving too fast. Explosions blossomed across the battlefield. Each missile that connected blew chunks off the bioships. The Krath had biological regeneration, but you can't regenerate if you're blown into pieces. The battle raged for 2 hours. When it finally ended, 73 Krath vessels floated dead in space. The human fleet had lost only one ship, the frigate Defiant, which had taken concentrated fire while protecting a damaged sister ship. Minho stood on the bridge, watching the tactical display clear of enemy markers. His crew was exhausted but victorious. Around the Valerian homeworld, the remaining Krath ships were retreating, pulling back to regroup. "Open a channel to the planet," Minho ordered. The screen showed a Valerian command center. The aliens looked shocked, unable to believe what they had just witnessed. A Valerian leader stepped forward, its large eyes wide with amazement. You defeated them." "The Krath have never been defeated." Minho allowed himself a small smile. "They've never fought humans before. We're from a world that teaches us to survive against impossible odds. These Krath picked the wrong species to threaten." He switched to fleet-wide communications. "All ships, damage report. Medical teams assist any wounded. Engineering, begin repairs. We won this round, but the battle isn't over. The Krath will come back and they'll be angry." Yuna approached him quietly. "Captain, we just proved that humans can beat the Krath. The whole galaxy is watching." "Good," Minho replied. "Let them watch. Let them see what happens when you call for help and Deathworlders answer. Now get me a tactical analysis. We need to be ready for round 2. On the planet below, the Valerians looked up at their sky and felt something they hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. The humans had come. The Deathworlders were here. Maybe, just maybe, they would survive after all. The human fleet moved through space at incredible speed. Inside the Indomitable, the crew had settled into a routine. They trained, ate, slept, and trained again. Every moment was spent preparing for the battle ahead. Commander Tai Yang called Captain Minho from the Typhoon, one of the carrier ships traveling with them. His face appeared on the communication screen, looking serious. "Minho, I'm running combat drills with our fighter squadrons. Pilot Hana says her people are ready, but we don't know what we're flying into. The Kraith have destroyed every force sent against them. Then we'll be the first to win, Minho replied simply. How are your pilots handling the high G maneuvers? Taeyang smiled slightly. Better than any other species could. Hana pulled 8 Gs in the simulator yesterday without breaking a sweat. The coalition observers monitoring our training looked like they were going to be sick just watching the readings. It was true. The human ability to withstand extreme gravitational forces was something other species found hard to believe. Where most aliens would black out at 4 Gs, humans could function at 8 or even 9. It was a gift from their brutal homeworld. Dr. Nari was in the medical bay speaking with someone on the long-range communicator. Minho could see the transmission was going to the Valerian homeworld. He walked down to check on her. How are they doing? He asked quietly. Nari looked tired but determined. Not well. The Kraith have already consumed 2 of their colony worlds. The Valerians are trying to evacuate civilians to underground shelters, but they're not built for war. They don't understand combat. On the screen, a Valerian doctor was asking questions. Its thin hands moved nervously as it spoke. Dr. Nari, your medical reports show humans can heal from injuries in days. Our people take weeks to recover from even minor wounds. How is this possible? Nari considered her answer carefully. Our world made us this way. Earth is not a kind planet. We have dangerous weather, deadly animals, diseases that attack constantly. Humans who couldn't heal quickly didn't survive long enough to have children. Over millions of years, we became very good at recovering from damage. The Valerian looked confused. But surely your world cannot be that dangerous. You are an intelligent species. You must have found safety. Earth doesn't give safety easily, Nari explained. Even now, with all our technology, people die from earthquakes, hurricanes, floods, wildfires. We have animals that can kill a human in seconds. We have bacteria that can wipe out entire cities if we're not careful. Living on Earth means being ready to fight or die every single day. The Valerian was silent for a moment. And yet you chose to come help us. Knowing the danger? Of course, Nari said. Dangerous doesn't mean cruel. Humans protect those who cannot protect themselves. It's who we are. After the call ended, Minho put a hand on Nari's shoulder. That was well said, Doctor. I hope it gives them some comfort, she replied. They're so afraid, Captain. Their whole civilization might end in the next few weeks. Not if we have anything to say about it. Down in engineering, Hyun was explaining human ship design to some curious coalition observers who were watching remotely.
The engineer loved his work and was happy to talk about it. You see, most species build their ships with 1 or 2 backup systems, Hyun said, pointing to a holographic diagram of the Indomitable.
We build ships with 3 or 4 backups for everything critical. Power, life support, weapons, shields, even the backup systems have backups. A coalition engineer asked the obvious question. Isn't that extremely inefficient? Why waste so much space and resources? Hyun laughed. Because on Earth, failure kills you fast. If your heating breaks during winter, you freeze. If your water system fails in the desert, you die of thirst. If your shelter collapses in a storm, you're crushed. Humans learned a long time ago that redundancy means survival. We apply that same thinking to everything we build. He pulled up another display showing the fusion drive system. Our engines are the same way. We push them harder than any coalition drive because we designed them to handle stress. On Earth, everything has to work under pressure. Our technology reflects that. In the training room, Sergeant Daehyun was putting his Marines through intense exercises. The soldiers wore full combat armor and carried heavy weapons. They ran, climbed, fought in hand-to-hand drills, and practiced shooting with both energy weapons and old-fashioned projectile guns. One of the Marines, a young woman named Minji who served as a combat medic, finished a drill and removed her helmet. Sweat covered her face, but she was smiling. Sergeant, do you think the Krath will be ready for us? She asked. Daehyun grinned. No species is ready for humans in close combat, Minji. We're stronger, faster, and meaner than anything they've fought before. The Krath think they're the ultimate predators. They're about to learn what real predators look like. Another Marine, Soo-hyuk, spoke up. He was a demolitions expert who specialized in urban warfare. I've been reading reports about Krath biology. They're tough, they regenerate, and they have acid for blood, but they've never faced explosives like ours. I don't care how tough you are, nobody survives a human breaching charge. That's the attitude I want, Daehyun said. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for people who can't fight back. The Valerians are counting on us. Don't let them down. The Marines shouted their acknowledgement and returned to training. Up on the bridge, Yuna was studying intelligence reports about the Kraith. The information was limited because few had survived encounters with them. She pulled up what little data existed and frowned. Captain, the Kraith are a hive mind. They share one consciousness across thousands of ships and millions of warriors. They adapt to weapons, they regenerate damage, and they never retreat. Every battle report says the same thing. The Krath cannot be beaten. Minho looked at the data without concern. Every battle report is from species who aren't human. They don't know our advantages. Which are? Yuna asked. We're unpredictable. Hive minds think in patterns. Humans don't. We're creative, stubborn, and we refuse to accept defeat. Plus, we have something the Kraith haven't faced before. What's that, sir? Minho smiled. Weapons they haven't adapted to yet. The Coalition uses energy weapons almost exclusively. Lasers, plasma, particle beams. All based on radiation and heat. The Krath have learned to defend against those over thousands of years. Yuna began to understand. But we still use kinetic weapons, railguns, missiles, physical projectiles. Exactly. You can't adapt to a depleted uranium slug moving at a significant fraction of light speed. It either hits you or it doesn't, and if it hits you, you die. No adaptation, no defense, just physics. As the days passed, the human fleet grew closer to the Valerian system. The crew could feel the tension building. Everyone knew that soon they would face an enemy that had destroyed countless civilizations. But they also knew they were ready. On the 10th day of the journey, long-range scanners picked up the first signs of the Krath. The swarm had consumed 2 colony worlds completely. The planets were now just empty husks, stripped of all biological material. On day 15, they received updated messages from the Valerians. The situation was desperate. Krath bioships had reached orbit around the homeworld. Kraith warriors were landing on the surface. The Valerian defense forces, few and poorly equipped, were being slaughtered. On day 20, the human fleet began final combat preparations. Weapons were charged, armor was checked, plans were reviewed. On day 21, they entered the outer edges of the Valerian system. Captain Minho stood on the bridge, watching the tactical display fill with red markers. Each marker represented a Kraith vessel. There were hundreds of them. All ships, this is Captain Minho. Battle stations. Arm all weapons. Prepare for combat. Today we show the Kraith what happens when they threaten innocent people. Today we show the galaxy what Deathworlders can do. For the Valerians. For humanity, attack! The 12 human warships accelerated toward the enemy swarm, their weapons powering up. Behind them across the galaxy, the Coalition watched and waited to see if the impossible could be done. The Deathworlders had arrived. Captain Minho stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, staring at the holographic display before him. The massive warship hummed with power as it orbited Earth's moon. Behind him, his crew worked at their stations with practiced efficiency. The bridge was quiet except for the soft beeping of instruments and the occasional status report. Lieutenant Yuna approached from the tactical station, her face concerned. She carried a data tablet in her hands. Captain, we're receiving something strange. It's a distress signal, but it's coming from very far away. Minho turned to face her. How far? The Valerian homeworld. That's on the edge of Coalition space, sir. Almost 8 months away by standard drives. Yuna's fingers moved across the tablet, pulling up more information. The signal is desperate. They're saying their world is under attack. Minho took the tablet and read the message. The words were translated from the Valerian language, but the fear in them was clear. An enemy called the Krath Swarm had arrived at their world. They were losing. They needed help immediately. Patch it through to the main screen, Minho ordered. The holographic display changed. A Valerian appeared before them. The alien was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large eyes. Its body was fragile-looking, almost bird-like. The Valerian was clearly terrified. Please, anyone who can hear this message, we are the Valerians. Our world is dying. The Krath have come. They consume everything. Our defenses have fallen. Our people are being slaughtered. We have sent this message to every Coalition member. Please, someone help us. The message ended. The bridge fell silent. Engineer Hyun spoke up from his station near the back of the bridge. Captain, I'm checking the Coalition response channels. The Council is already debating what to do. Put it on speaker, Minho said. The voices of various alien species filled the bridge. The Thexian representative was speaking, its voice mechanical through the translator. The distance is too great. By the time any fleet arrives, the Valerians will be extinct. We must accept this reality. Another voice joined in, this one belonging to the Porthan ambassador. The Krath have never been defeated. They are a hive mind, a swarm that adapts to any weapon. Sending ships would only mean losing more lives. But we must try something, a third voice pleaded. We cannot abandon an entire civilization. 8 months is too long. The mathematics are clear. There is nothing we can do. Minho felt anger rising in his chest. He looked at Yuna, then at the rest of his crew. They all had the same expression. They were thinking the same thing. Yun, Minho said calmly. How long would it take us to reach the Valerian system? The engineer's fingers flew across his console. He looked up with a slight smile. Using our fusion drives at full burn? 3 weeks, Captain. The Coalition channel suddenly went quiet. Someone had been listening to the human ship's transmission. Did the human vessel just say 3 weeks? The Thexian representative asked in disbelief. Minho activated his communication link to the Coalition Council. This is Captain Minho of the human fleet. We will respond to the Valerian distress call. We are preparing to depart immediately. That's impossible, the Porthan ambassador said. No ship can cross that distance in 3 weeks. Your drives cannot be that powerful. You've never asked about our drives, Minho replied. You assumed we used the same technology as everyone else. We don't. We come from a world that demands the best from us. Our ships are built to move fast because on Earth slow means dead. Dr. Nari, the medical officer, stood from her station. She was shorter than Minho but carried herself with quiet confidence. Captain, I should prepare the medical bay. If we're going into combat, we'll need to be ready for casualties. Do it, Minho agreed. Yuna, send a message to all human ships in the sector. I want every available vessel ready to jump in 1 hour. Sir, that's only 12 ships total, Yuna said. The rest of the fleet is scattered across Coalition space on patrol. 12 will have to be enough. The Thexian voice came back through the speakers. Captain Minho, the Council has not authorized this action. The Krath swarm is extremely dangerous. You would be taking your people to certain death. Minho smiled grimly. With respect, Ambassador, humans have been facing certain death since we learned to walk upright on our planet. It's what we do best. Besides, someone asked for help. We're not the kind of species that ignores that. He cut the connection before anyone could argue further. Yuna pulled up a tactical display showing the locations of all human ships nearby. I have confirmations from 11 other captains. They're all ready to go, sir. The Typhoon, the Tempest, the Resolute, and 9 others. Good. Minho turned to his crew. Listen up, everyone. What we're about to do has never been done before. We're going to cross half the galaxy in 3 weeks. And then we're going to fight an enemy that has never been beaten. The other species think we're crazy. They think we're going to die. He paused, looking at each face on the bridge. They don't understand us. They don't know what it means to come from Earth. They've never had to fight for every breath, every meal, every day of survival. We have. That's what makes us different. That's what makes us human. The crew was silent, but their faces showed determination. Hyun, charge the main drives. Yuna, plot a course directly to the Valerian homeworld. Navigation, prepare for sustained high-speed burn. Medical, engineering, weapons, all departments prepare for combat operations. Orders acknowledged came from every station. Minho sat in his captain's chair and gripped the armrests. All ships, this is indomitable actual. Form up and prepare for jump. We have people to save and an enemy to kill. Let's show the galaxy what Deathworlders can do. The 12 human ships aligned in space, their fusion drives glowing bright blue. In the distance, Coalition observation posts watched in amazement as the human fleet suddenly accelerated to speeds that should have been impossible. Within minutes, they were moving faster than any Coalition vessel had ever traveled. Inside the Indomitable, the crew worked with focused intensity. They had 3 weeks to prepare for a battle that would decide the fate of an entire species. 3 weeks to prove that humanity belonged among the stars. 3 weeks to show that when Deathworlders answered a call for help, nothing in the galaxy could stop them. The journey had begun.